Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. Sorry, James, I'll just go ahead first. Thanks for being here. So we're joined today by BC Liberal candidates for Port Moody Coquitlam, James Robertson, who you can see there.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is James Robertson. I'm the BC Liberal candidate for Port Moody and Coquitlam. Here with the Tri-City team and our leader, Andrew Wilkinson. These days, it's harder to get ever to afford a living in the Lower Mainland. You know, a lot of families struggling, especially a lot of young British Columbians. Rents have increased $2,000 a year under the NDP, and the cost of the average home has gone up. It's often difficult for young families to make rent, let alone buy a house. And as a result, we are seeing so many young people leave our communities in search for housing that they can afford. It's time for real and effective action on housing affordability so that everyone is able to find the housing that they need to build their lives in our communities. And Joan?
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Well, I have heard from many of my residents in Coquitlam Burke Mountain, as well as residents all around the Tri-Cities, who are really concerned about the challenges that they've been experiencing during this global pandemic. Families are worried about their jobs. They're worried about their small businesses, and they're worried about whether or not they can pay their rent or their mortgage next month. And under the NDP, we've seen housing affordability actually get worse. Housing starts are down. The NDP promised to build 114,000 affordable housing units. That was an election promise that was broken. At the current rate, it would take 100 years for them to fulfill that. I'm proud of our BC Liberal commitments to remove barriers for individuals and families, to make renting and home ownership more affordable for all British Columbians. I am pleased to introduce my friend, the BC Liberal Leader, and the next Premier of British Columbia, Andrew Wilkinson.
Thanks, John. And thanks for being here, everybody, on a rainy day in Port Moody. We're here in the riding of Port Moody Coquitlam. Our candidate is James Robertson behind me. We also have Moran Zargam in the back for Port Coquitlam, Will Davis for Coquitlam Millardville, and of course Joan Isaac, who you just spoke with. Now, I think we have to recognize we've got an ongoing housing problem in British Columbia. In the Lower Mainland, it's reached its worst case. Rents under the NDP have gone up by an average of $2,000 per year, making it less affordable than ever. The number of rental vacancies remains very, very low. In terms of purchased housing, condos are up 10% in the last year, houses are up 5%. The cost of housing is higher than it's ever been in British Columbia, and incomes are going down because of COVID. So we have an affordability crisis that is not getting better. If anything, under the NDP, it's gotten worse than ever. We also have the concern that under the NDP, property taxes have gone up. We have the scenario where people just can't afford to maintain the homes they're in. We have to do better than this, and we have to make sure that British Columbians have the opportunity to get ahead. When average rents are rising, and the price of purchasing a home is getting out of reach, British Columbians need better. Joan mentioned that under the NDP there is the promise of 114,000 new housing units. Instead, we got 2,900 temporary units. Even if they were permanent, it would take more than 100 years for the NDP housing promise to be fulfilled. It doesn't add up. The NDP's housing policy, whether it's rental, whether it's ownership, whether it's construction of housing, has been a complete failure. We're going to have to do better. So today we're announcing a $750 million contribution to the capital of BC Housing to provide more affordable rental housing. We're also talking about a $146 million increase in operating budgets so that that rental housing can be maintained and built upon over the years to come. We're also talking about structural changes in the housing system. We need to make sure that we can dramatically increase affordable housing for both renters and buyers. We need to provide relief for condo owners who've seen their condo insurance go up anywhere from 40% to 1,000%. That's not affordable. We put solutions in front of the NDP. They did nothing. It's time to address the condo insurance crisis by providing different forms of insurance. That can be done. We proposed it. The NDP ignored it. We need to modernize our outdated permitting system to get projects underway sooner and to get the costs down so that people can actually afford to purchase new housing. We need to implement higher property taxes for non-residents of Canada. It's done in many jurisdictions in the world, from New Zealand to Texas, and we can do it too, to control that foreign purchasing of property here in Canada by non-Canadians. And importantly, the PST. Let's eliminate sales tax on construction costs. We're talking about eliminating PST on everything for a year and then reducing it to 3% thereafter. That will have a major effect on reducing the cost of new construction, get people out into the communities, get them out enjoying life, and stimulate this economy to success. So rather than penalizing homeowners, we're talking about a real plan to get people into good, solid rental accommodation and also to make it possible for them to realize their dreams and live in their own home here in British Columbia. We have to rebuild confidence in British Columbia. We have to build the confidence of buyers and renters, and we have to rebuild BC. So with that, I think we're happy to take questions. Carly?
Great, thanks. Just a reminder to everyone, press star 1 if you'd like to get into the queue. Our first question today will go to Rob Bussam from CTV News. Go ahead, Rob.
Oh, hi. Good afternoon, Andrew. Thanks for taking my question. My first question is, how do you respond to, your Liberal membership chair's comments on Twitter yesterday, including the BC Liberal Party under Andrew Wilkinson does not reflect values I support, going on to say that the party doesn't have a throne nest problem, we have a problem in the leadership of the party. What's your response to that?
Well, I noticed that that person has actually retracted some of her criticism this morning after thinking it over. But we're a party based on values of equality, fairness, opportunity for everyone. Everyone in British Columbia needs to feel secure that they are free of discrimination, regardless of the grounds being age or family of origin or sexual orientation or gender. All of those are grounds that people cannot be discriminated upon in British Columbia. And so I'm proud to say that I'm with a party that stands by its values. And if our candidates don't stand by those values, they're no longer our candidates. So we're moving ahead, and we're glad to say that it's a party that stands by its values.
Do you have a follow-up, Rob?
I do. My impression from your comments yesterday are that you accepted Laurie Throness's resignation but did not fire him. How do you respond to people who say that you should have fired him and that would have been a better leadership move?
I called Mr. Throness with the plan that he would be ending his candidacy on that call. 30 seconds later, he was no longer a candidate. He resigned, and that's the end of the matter as far as I'm concerned, because I went and made that call with the intent to end his candidacy.
Great, thanks. Next question will go to Lisa Yuzda from News 1130. Go ahead, Lisa.
I just have another call coming in. Sorry. Just quick question, following up sort of on what Rob was asking. You didn't decisively say he is not a member of our party until, push came to shove. But you did say things like you called, I can't remember the word that you used, but it was, about Jane Thornthwaite saying that what she said was appalling. But you didn't use words as strong as that about Laurie Throness or other candidates who had, made anti-trans comments or supported anti-trans messages. So it seems like there's a real disconnect there.
Well, the comments from our North Vancouver Seymour candidate were inappropriate. She remains our candidate. She's a good, strong person who's very capable of what she does, and she made a mistake. Mr. Throness's comments are totally inappropriate and totally unacceptable, so I phoned him yesterday with the intent of ending his candidacy, and 30 seconds later, he was no longer a candidate for this party.
Do you have a follow-up, Lisa?
I do. I'm wondering about the call that your MLA, Mary Polak, came out with just about an hour ago. Why make this call for a review of schools now? It seems a very, I've got no words today, my goodness. It seems like it's a very obvious trying to change the dial. This hasn't been mentioned before. It's a week before the election. Why make this call now?
Because parents are concerned. I think we all know what's been happening in schools across North America. They've closed 300 schools in New York City completely. Schools in Ontario are under a different setup than they are in British Columbia now because of the growth of cases there in 3 regions of Ontario. So parents here are basically saying they don't want to be learning about this stuff on social media with unreliable information. They'd rather learn about it from an authoritative source. So the query from Mary Polak is, can we get greater transparency about the situation in our schools? It's a completely legitimate query that reflects the concerns of many, many parents we're speaking with.
Great, thanks. Next question will go to Andrew McLeod from the Tyee. Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, hi, Andrew. During the campaign, you've talked a lot about rising crime rates. There were new statistics out yesterday from the Vancouver Police Department showing that in most categories, August to August, that the rate of crime actually went down. I'm wondering if we could get your reaction to that, please.
Well, it's no surprise that crime is down in downtown Vancouver because there are no international tourists to have their cars broken into. 0. The office towers are largely empty, so there's no one to steal from there. The downtown has been more or less rapidly changed from a very, very busy place in August of 2019 to a very quiet place in August 2020. We do stand by the statistics, though, that assaults with a weapon, aggravated assault, are up 21%, according to the statistics. And we also know that in some communities we've seen assaults up 144% under the NDP. And I've got to tell you, we're hearing this in every community we go to, that people are fed up with the level of property crime, and they're fed up with the prospect of street disorder, and they're very, very pleased to hear our announcement of putting 100 psychiatric social workers into police cars to deal with the mental health aspects of police calls, and 200 new police officers to fill all the vacancies that have been left by the NDP, plus 40 Crown prosecutors and the necessary resources to get these cases through the court. People expect their government to maintain law and order, and that's what we will do.
You have a follow-up, Andrew?
Yeah, on a different topic, if you don't mind. When the current government was changing the laws around corporate and union donations, not allowing them to be made to political parties, I'm wondering if you were to government again, what changes you would laws?
Well, the electoral financing scenario keeps changing. The federal government's had a number of changes over the years, so it's the sort of thing that has to be examined. But let's be crystal clear. There must be no donations to political parties from outside of British Columbia. There must be no donations from corporations or unions, period.
Great, thanks. We'll go to our next question. Richard Sussman, Global News. Go ahead, Richard.
Andrew, I missed the beginning of this, so excuse me if it's been asked, but are you feeling the pressure from inside your party that you do not align with the values of the BC Liberals, and that there is a groundswell of people now that no longer want to support a party that is led by you?
Well, actually, it's exactly the opposite, Richard. Since the events of yesterday afternoon, I have had overwhelming support from all across the province. Dozens of messages, emails, phone calls saying, Andrew, you did the right thing. Keep moving. We believe in this party and we believe in you. Every party has some dissenting voices, and we saw that overnight. But the overwhelming support is in favor of continuing this campaign and winning this election so that we can form government.
Do you have a follow-up, Richard?
You still have candidates still on the ballot who have views that are seen as transphobic and homophobic. You have a candidate in Langley East who has said in questionnaires she is opposed to rainbow crosswalks, not because of logistical issues, but she is opposed to them. You have the candidate in New Westminster now who has shared social media posts that are transphobic. Why are these still candidates that are BC Liberal candidates? How do you square that with Laurie Thronis no longer being part of the team?
There are core values in this party that all candidates have to subscribe to, and they include a complete disdain and unacceptance, a refusal to accept that there will ever be discrimination in British Columbia based on age, sex, gender, or sexual orientation. And let's be completely clear. To be a candidate in this party, you have to be of the view that LGBTQ plus people in British Columbia deserve all the same rights and all the same treatment as everybody else. We're a party that's based on equality and fairness, and that applies to all of our candidates.
Thank you. We'll go to the last question today. It's Ian Bailey from the Globe and Mail. Go ahead, Ian.
Mr. Wilkinson, Mr. Thronis has indicated that he plans to run to win his seat. Would your team be prepared, your caucus be prepared to work with Mr. Thronis if he comes into the legislature after the election as an independent? What would have to happen for that to happen?
Well, Mr. Thrones is on his own now. He's no longer a BC Liberal candidate. It's up to the people of Chilliwack-Kent to decide who they want to vote for. And we'll all have to see who's in the legislature after the final count from the postal vote to see where we stand. And that will be an unknown scenario until the votes come in. There are 87 different elections in this province, and 87 different constituencies will decide who their representative should be. And of course, the parties will have to figure out the lay of the land once they get back to Victoria, just like they did in 2017.
Do you have a follow-up, Ian?
Yes, I do. What direction has Mr. Thrones been given about using BC Liberal signs, logos, and other material? I mean, we're near the end of this election as these events have unfolded, and he is known as a BC Liberal. He will be on the ballot as a BC Liberal. Have you given any direction to him to sort of cut off access to the support of the party?
Elections BC provides the ballots, and they have said that he will be on the ballot in Chilliwack-Kent as a BC Liberal, even though he's no longer a candidate. That's a logistical issue for getting the ballots prepared and out into the community. Minutes after I spoke with him yesterday, the election campaign team spoke with his campaign manager and made it crystal clear that as he is no longer a candidate, he no longer has access to BC Liberal Party resources, including logos, funding, support, any data, any of the normal things that go into a campaign are no longer available to Mr. Thrones from the BC Liberal Party.
Great. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks, everyone, and we will talk to you all again tomorrow. Have a great day.
Thank you. All the best, everybody. And thank you all.